I pulled some flowers from my garden and Karen went crazy. She swore they were hers and she got so mad she tried to burn down my house. Subscribe to my channel Was I an Idiot on YouTube and turn on notifications, as the early arrival of spring motivated me to take care of the strip of garden between my property and hers. While working on this, I removed some lilies from my plot. Upon returning home, I heard a scream coming from the side of my house and I ran fearing that someone was hurt. Karen, just home from work, questioned why I removed her lilies. I explained that they were mine and that I was preparing space to plant tomatoes, cucumbers, and carrots. Your reaction? Calling the police, claiming I destroyed her property. The police clarified the situation, but the worst was yet to come. Karen, drunk, set fire to my neighbor's house as revenge for what happened in the garden. This is an update to my previous post where I reported the overreaction to taking away the lilies. Some suggested security cameras, but nothing predicted what was to come. Karen, in a fit of rage, set fire to her neighbor's trash cans. The fire spread and everything became chaos. The situation is surreal, and yes, she tried to burn down my house, as she confirmed in a comment. The shock came after his confession and realizing he burned down the wrong house. She is facing criminal charges for arson and everyone, an entire family, narrowly escaped. It is an extreme and bizarre retaliation. Karen intended to burn down my house and only realized her mistake after telling the story, which caused her to be shocked for a few minutes. There were more details when someone commented, "Wow, she's out of her mind, I hope she faces attempted murder charges too. She waited until you were asleep before setting the fire. I hope you get a restraining order against her." The person added, "Yes, like I said, arson and stuff like that. I don't really understand the law, but she will face psychological evaluations and be admitted to a psychiatric hospital." The last one I heard said, "I hope the courts hold her accountable for all of this and she doesn't use her mental health condition as an excuse." The author of the text replied, "Yes, that will probably be what she will claim, although it will probably be refused, as her drunkenness was the cause." The big question is whether she went to the trash cans knowing that a fire from them would jump to the house because they were so close, or whether she thought she would send a message by setting the trash cans on fire. It appears that she entered with the real intention of burning down the house, as she brought firewood and a lighter to keep the fire going. With something this serious, I'm sure she'll be in a lot of legal trouble for a long time. You can discuss what you think will happen to her, but the question is, what would you do if you were in that situation? And who was the villain or not, and why? I feel like an idiot for letting a homeless person sleep in my guest room without asking my wife. While returning home after a show at around 11 p.m., I saw what looked like a body on the side of the road. I stopped, turned back, and discovered a homeless man lying on the side of the road, only sore from a cold, wet, bruised knee. I offered a ride and he accepted. During the trip back, 40 miles from my city, we talked. He revealed he had prostate cancer, lost his brother to the same disease and his wife to COVID. He was heading to a town 2 hours away to see his 17-year-old son. We discussed his life on the streets and his passion for tattoos, as well as the help he received from other people. Upon arriving in the city where I live, we looked for shelter, but to no avail. I ended up inviting him to spend the night at home in the guest room, even though I didn't consult my wife first. Right now, I'm up here, trying to stay up all night to make sure the homeless guy in the basement doesn't come and harm my family. How crazy is it that this happened? If we jump to the future, there was an update. My wife got up and apologized to me for some reason, starting to put together a care package for him. Of course, I told her that I'm the one who needs to apologize to her. I'm a huge idiot, as many of you have stated. She can understand that my intentions were good but reckless. I figured she would see this post, so I told her about it, hoping some of the funnier comments would lighten the mood. But the comments directed at her really affected the outcome of this. It's not like I did a good thing and now my wife is punishing me for it. Far from it, the mess is the damage I've done to her confidence and feelings of personal security, and the emotional toll it's taking on her. Let me just say that my wife is the best person in the world. She never gives me crap, even when it's deserved. She is very supportive and tolerated a lot of my stupid things. For everyone who calls her cruel, I appreciate the support, but that doesn't make her the villain of this story. Now she's upset, scared, and feeling all kinds of emotions. I took a lot of her advice to heart and am in the process of trying to fix everything. So far, it has resulted in countless apologies and promises. So for the update, the next morning, the guest room has 2 French doors that are very difficult to open. As a result, Tim got up to use the bathroom and was unable to open the doors. He assumed it was locked and had a little incident while I was opening them. Then there was some urine, but it was not intentional, as some feared. I took him to the shower and put his clothes in the laundry. I gave him some extra clothes and made him breakfast, an English muffin with honey, for those who asked. We talked about his family and V8 cars for a while. While the names and stories were consistent, I must admit that some of you made me question the validity of your previous claims, which is clearly at odds with my trusting nature. I booked him a round-trip bus ticket before taking him to the DHS office to get a new food stamp card since the last one was stolen and the balance was reset. I could have said stolen in quotes, but I'm giving Tim the benefit of the doubt. I packed him some non-perishable snacks, Band-Aids, vitamins, jackets, a blanket, and a new backpack. It sounds generous, but they were mostly things I earned professionally and no longer needed. I also bought some espresso and peanut butter smoothies and headed to the bus stop. He had plenty of time to wait, considering the previous 10 hours. So I left him with $40, which I would have spent on other things anyway. I passed a nearby covered bench and returned home to watch the bus's progress. I noticed he was running late and, admittedly, I went back to make sure he was still there when the bus arrived. He was already waiting with his equipment at the point when I stopped and said a final goodbye. To the people who praised what I did, thank you. But I'm not a completely confident person. I'm still awake, anxious, and doubting my decision. I didn't sleep or eat anything solid. I made sure to keep valuables on me or in plain sight. I checked again to see if he got on the bus. But where was all this suspicion and caution when I made the decision to let him stay, you ask? I had these fears and suspicions. There was a human being sitting in my car at midnight, with nothing warm and no place to sleep. So I made a quick and slightly painful decision that I hope doesn't hurt me. As far as I know, nothing was stolen, so I was an idiot for letting a homeless person stay in my house without my wife's permission. This story strangely reminds me of a situation in my own life, a story without a very good ending. It was a similar story that went horribly wrong, and it all started with my own naivety, believing I was just helping someone who ended up becoming violent and deranged. I never planned on telling this story, but if you guys want to hear the full version, leave a positive review and maybe one day I will. But as far as this story goes, this guy has an incredible amount of personal responsibility. He was put in a difficult situation. What do you do? Leave the guy out in the cold with an injury and no food, or disappoint your wife's trust by bringing someone she doesn't know home in the middle of the night? Neither situation is really ideal, and I'm sure some people will probably say, why don't you wake her up and ask? How would this work exactly? Would you bring the homeless guy home, wake up your wife in the middle of the night and tell her, hey, I got this homeless guy, is it okay if he, stays with us? And then you would assume she would say no because she wants to sleep without worrying about it? The guy already knows where you live, anyway. It's a difficult situation. People tend to want to help other people, but because of the severity of the consequences, there is a lot of hesitation. I know the guy doesn't want to be praised for what it is, a good job you did to help him. But he actually did it. Not only did it have a place for him to stay, but it basically provided everything: food, money, tickets, showers, clean clothes. This is what helps people restore faith in humanity. But if it were you in this situation and your wife, for example, did not accept that the homeless person was at home, how would you deal with it? What would do? And do you think he's an idiot or not, and why? I'm the idiot for describing my wife as fat to our young children. My wife is 41 years old and I am 44 years old. We both work in education and believe in explaining things properly to our children, a 4-year-old girl and a 5-year-old boy. We agreed to never use the word fat with them. Unfortunately, my wife is about 3 pounds overweight, and I don't think she even knew it until I recently raised the subject with her. Last year, we agreed that she needs to work on improving her health. Since then, we have been on this journey together to reduce excess weight. I'm proud to say she's lost about 10 pounds, but she still has a lot to achieve to reach her desired weight. She is excellent at sticking to her diet when there are no temptations around. At Easter, instead of an egg, I bought her flowers, and she seemed happy with that. Yesterday, my kids were arguing over a missing Easter egg, each accusing the other of eating it. I quickly understood what had happened and asked my wife to explain where the egg was. She admitted that she had eaten him. My son, who owned the egg, was deeply upset and confused, asking why she had eaten it. It was unfair that she hadn't responded properly. She threw the responsibility on me, saying she wanted chocolate, but I didn't give her an egg. It was a complicated moment, and at one point I explained that Mom was trying to reduce her sweet intake, using the word fat. That's because my sister prefers to be described that way and sees no shame in it, but I now realize that perhaps I was insensitive about it. My wife hasn't spoken to me since and she seems deeply upset. I feel terrible for hurting her, but I also believe it was unfair for her to take our son's egg without permission and then blame me. However, I regret possibly using the wrong terminology. I was left with no way of explaining to the children why she hadn't received an egg, if she hadn't told them that fact, or even if she hadn't eaten the egg to begin with. I made mistakes, she said hurtful things to my wife, and I set a bad example for our children. I disrespected and humiliated the woman I love. I feel deeply ashamed of the impact I had on my wife. I have apologized to her privately and in front of our children, acknowledging the appalling behavior I demonstrated. I encouraged our children to express their feelings, which mainly focused on the loss of the chocolate. My daughter commented on something I said that was mean to Mom, and she's right. We couldn't find another egg, so my son shared the celebrations with his sister. This incident revealed larger issues, particularly my issues with anxiety regarding my wife's health. I realized that this fear led me to be controlling and critical. I am ashamed of this behavior and am seeking therapeutic help to deal with these issues. The day I called my wife fat coincided with the anniversary of my identical twin's death, which intensified my fear of loss. It's not an excuse for what I did, but I understand how it affected my actions. My wife and I talked. She expressed the importance of following her own choices and decided to seek help for possible eating disorders. She is eager to seek professional guidance when she feels ready. I admit that my excessive concern for her may be controlling behavior. I learned the importance of supporting her and respecting her decisions. I am aware of the profound impact of my words on our self-esteem, and I will never forgive myself for hurting the woman I love. I feel sorry for what happened, and I will never stop reaffirming how beautiful she is in every aspect, body, mind and soul. I've seen a lot of criticism of this guy, calling him evil, but honestly, a simple apology would have been enough for most people, unless there's something more here, something he routinely does, that would justify her reaction. Everyone deals with things differently, and maybe this has really impacted her in ways we don't understand. However, what went unnoticed was that the wife took the chocolate from the child and made her take the blame, to the point where the girl cried while her brother believed she had taken the chocolate. When confronted, she tried to blame her father, saying she only did it because of him. The situation was awkward for both, but who was right, who was wrong, and who acted like a fool? Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to hear the outcome of this series. Use the playlist at the top of the description to catch up on all the stories. Hello HistoReddit folks! Today we explore different perspectives on a recent incident. We saw how a simple action can trigger multiple reactions. Who was right, who was wrong, and where did it go wrong? It was a confusing situation, and everyone has an opinion on the matter. What do you think? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like and activate the bell so you don't miss updates. And stay tuned for more interesting stories from the series. Until next time, everyone.